he watched Julia speak. And according to Julia herself, recounting the story years later at Otumfuo's 74th birthday celebration in 2024, he was mesmerized. When the event ended, it started to rain. His courtiers urged him to leave. The king refused. He was determined to find out who this woman was. Julia would later laugh about it, saying, "Little did I know that I was auditioning for the role of a lifetime." The woman who made it happen? Her Royal Highness Lady Julia Osei Tutu, wife of the Asantehene Otumfuo Osei Tutu II, the same woman who was expected to just attend ceremonies, look elegant in kente, and support her husband quietly. She did all of that, yes. But she also did something Ghana had never seen from a queen before. She built infrastructure. She changed policy. She broke one of the biggest taboos in the Ghanaian society. I'm Akosia Yeboah. This is the rise of Lady Julia Osei Tutu. Before Lady Julia became the wife of a king, she was Julia Ama Ejapa Ameni, born on the 14th of December in Achim Ebuakwa in the eastern region of Ghana. She was the youngest of 5 children. Her father was a career diplomat, which meant by the time young Julia was a teenager, she had already lived on 3 continents. In 1989, Julia entered the Faculty of Law at the University of Ghana, Legon. 3 years later, in 1992, she graduated with honors, a Bachelor of Laws degree. By 1994, she was called to the Ghana Bar. At that point, many young lawyers would have been satisfied, but not Julia. She secured an internship at Amnesty International United Nations office in New York. This was a woman who wasn't just looking for a career, she was building an international profile. In 1998, Julia returned to Ghana and joined Ecobank Ghana Limited as their legal and corporate affairs officer. By any measure, Julia Ameni was successful. She had the education, the experience, the professional network. She didn't need anything from anyone. And that's when everything changed. Sometime around the year 2000 or 2001, Julia Ameni traveled to Kumasi for the inauguration of Ecobank's first branch in the Ashanti capital. As the bank's legal and corporate affairs officer, she was asked to deliver the vote of thanks at the ceremony. It was supposed to be a routine, a professional duty, nothing more. But sitting in the audience that day was Otumfuo Osei Tutu II, the 16th Asantehene, king of the Ashanti people. He watched Julia speak. And according to Julia herself, recounting the story years later at Otumfuo's 74th birthday celebration, clearly she passed the audition. In April 2002, Julia Ama Ejapa Ameni became Lady Julia Osei Tutu, wife of the Asantehene. She was in her 30s, he was 52, and here we are now. 23 years later, in 2026, they have many beautiful children together, an amazing extended family, a love story that, by any measure, has defied the odds and expectations. But saying yes to a king in Ghana doesn't just come with a crown, it comes with expectations. In Ghana, if a woman tells you she's hearing voices or feeling depressed, chances are high that someone will tell her it's a spiritual problem, demons, ancestral curses. Maybe she needs deliverance. What she probably wouldn't hear is that she needs a psychiatrist. For decades, women's mental health in Ghana has been treated as everything except what it actually is. A medical crisis. Women suffering from treatable conditions like depression, anxiety, and psychosis have been taken to prayer camps and traditional healers instead of hospitals. The stigma was so deep, the infrastructure so lacking, that mental illness in women was almost always explained away as something spiritual rather than something medical. Otumfuo Osei Tutu II, like many kings before him, had children from previous relationships, 7 children in total. But when he married Julia in 2002, he made a choice that surprised many people. 1 wife, 1 queen. 23 years later, they are still together. In a culture where polygamy is accepted and even expected for royalty, Otumfuo chose monogamy. But the expectations for Lady Julia didn't stop there. Royal wives in Ghana have historically played ceremonial roles. They attend state functions, they look elegant in kente and traditional attire, they support the king publicly, they maintain tradition and uphold customs. And Lady Julia did all of those things, but she refused to stop there. While others saw a crown as something to wear, Julia saw it as a platform. While others saw royal duties as photo opportunities, she saw infrastructure gaps waiting to be filled. While others focused on maintaining tradition, she focused on creating transformation. She took on leadership of the Sewa Ampim AIDS Foundation, named after Otumfuo's late mother, the former Queen Mother of Asantehene. The foundation focused specifically on children who had become victims of the HIV/AIDS pandemic. These are children that society had largely abandoned, children who carried the stigma of a disease they didn't ask for. Lady Julia made them her priority. She became patron of the Otumfuo Osei Tutu Charity Foundation, taking on responsibility for overseeing the king's corporate social responsibilities. Lady Julia was proving that you could honor tradition while also building something new. You could attend ceremonies and also build hospitals. You could wear the crown and also use it as a construction tool. But her biggest fight, the one that would define her legacy, was still ahead. Before we continue with Lady Julia's story, I want to take a quick moment to talk about another woman who is making a difference. For this documentary, fashion designer and gospel singer Nemela Emefa Forson came through for me. You might have noticed how my kente and outfit complement the royal story we are telling. That's intentional. Her fashion company Nemef X Clothes created this design. If you need custom designs, traditional wear or fashion that makes a statement, reach out to Nemela at Nemef X Clothes. Her number is 024-474-8944. Now, back to Lady Julia's story and the expectations she was about to shatter. Lady Julia saw this pattern and she refused to accept it. She understood something that many people in Ghana were either unwilling or unable to say out loud. Women's mental health wasn't a spiritual problem, it was a medical crisis and it needed to be treated as such. As she found the Eve Medical Foundation, the mission was clear from the beginning. Treat women's mental health as a medical crisis, not a spiritual problem. Combat the stigma surrounding mental illness, improve access to professional mental health care, and most ambitiously, build infrastructure where none existed. But building infrastructure costs money. Lady Julia knew she needed partners. She needed people who shared her vision. In June 2024, Lady Julia inaugurated the United States chapter of Eve International Foundation in Washington, D.C. The Ghanaian ambassador to the United States attended. The former U.S. ambassador to Ghana attended. Together, they committed to one thing: building Ghana's first comprehensive women's wellness and mental health center. And then, just last month, on December 10th, 2025, that vision became a reality. The KGL Eve Medical Center opened at the Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology in Kumasi. This is the first purpose-built mental wellness facility serving the Ashanti, Bono, Ahafo, and northern regions of Ghana. KGL Eve Medical Center includes psychiatric consulting rooms, therapy and counseling units for both individual and group sessions, inpatient wards for people who need extended care. This isn't a prayer camp. There are no exorcisms happening here. There is no shame, no stigma, just professional, dignified, evidence-based medical care. Vice President Professor Nana Jane Opoku Agyemang, who would go on to become Ghana's first female vice president just weeks after this inauguration, commissioned the facility. She called it a practical response to the real and growing demand for integrated medical and mental health services. She praised the partnership between the KGL Foundation and the Eve Medical Foundation, noting that while government initiatives are essential, Ghana's growing population requires strong collaboration with private foundations and institutions. The KGL Eve Medical Center wasn't Lady Julia's only infrastructure project. She co-inaugurated a 10 million TD mother and baby unit at Komfo Teaching Hospital, alongside then First Lady Rebecca Ekufuado. The facility includes maternal care, neonatal intensive care, and pediatric intensive care units. She commissioned the Nana Kunedu Yado maternity block at the Mensha Government Hospital. She spearheaded the redevelopment of Kumasi Children's Park, creating a safe recreational space for families. These aren't just ribbon cutting ceremonies. These aren't just photo opportunities. These are psychiatric wards, therapy rooms, operating theaters, playgrounds, real infrastructure that will serve real people for generations. Lady Julia didn't just wear the crown. She used it as a tool to build things that would outlast her. 23 years ago, a corporate lawyer named Julia Ameni said yes to the most unlikely proposal of her life. She agreed to become the wife of the Asantehene, the king of the Ashanti people. She could have done exactly what was expected of her. She could have attended the ceremonies, cut the ribbons, looked elegant in kente, and been the beautiful woman on the king's arm at every state function. And she did all of that. Yet, she attended every ceremony she was supposed to attend. She looked absolutely stunning in traditional Ashanti attire. She was and remains the graceful, elegant queen that everyone expected. Today, because of Lady Julia Osei Tutu, Ghana has its first comprehensive women's mental health facility serving the northern regions of the country. Because of her advocacy, mental illness in women is slowly being recognized as a medical crisis that requires professional treatment, not as a spiritual problem that requires deliverance. Because of her vision, thousands of Ghanaian women now have access to psychiatric care, therapy, counseling, and rehabilitation services without the crushing weight of stigma and shame. The wife of the Asantehene could have been purely ceremonial. She could have been decorative. She could have been someone that history would barely remember beyond her title. Instead, Lady Julia Osei Tutu became revolutionary, and Ghana, particularly Ghana's women, will never be the same because of it. If you want to see more stories like this, stories about the people who are quietly changing Ghana, one infrastructure, one project at a time, make sure you subscribe to OJA Studios and hit the notification bell. We've got more incredible transformation stories coming your way. Drop a comment below and let us know which other Ghanaian women leaders should we profile next, whose story needs to be told. Thanks for watching. This has been the rise of Lady Julia Osei Tutu.